Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Ayin Tes in Nidrim. Yesterday we left off about 9 lines down on the page. Must be in another kasha on Rav Chanina. What did Rav Chanina say? Let's quickly review. We've learned that a person, let's call it a wife, the same is true for a daughter up until the age of 12 and a half, that a father breaks his daughters and that, or let's talk a simple case about a husband and a wife. He could break her Nidrim the day that he heard about it. Now, we're going to qualify that. We're going to see a case in the next parak, and it's going to be mentioned on this daf, that there is a case where even though he heard about it, he didn't actually hear about it. What does that mean? She made a netter, let's say, in January, and he only heard about it in February. So in February is when he has that day. The date he heard about, that's the date he has either to break it or to confirm it. Now, you can confirm it either by confirming it. One way is just say, I confirm it. Yeah, that's a good netter. Keep it going. Or he could confirm it in his heart, as we learned yesterday. Kayim belibo kayim. Even if he just confirms in his heart, that's good enough too. The Ran says, how do we know that that works? Because if he does nothing, right? If he hears about it that day, let's say here's January 1st, she made the netter, February 1st, he heard about the netter. And he heard about that on February 1st, and he did nothing that day. Just said, I'm going to take it under advisement. I'm going to think about it. And the day passes. I'm not going to get into the machlokas 24 hours. You're going to say that that day passes, then it's an netter too. So the Ran says, therefore, if he's Mekayim in his heart, it works too. Meaning, if he said to himself, it works. Says the Ran, I'm going to look at the Ran on the left side, the second line and the end of the second line. In other words, if he's Mekayim in his heart, he doesn't have to say anything. So either he could say, I confirm it, or he could confirm it to himself, or he can wait the day out. And if he waits the day out, that's it. It's confirmed at the end of the day. Those are the 3 ways that we said you can be Mekayim a netter. Now, Rav Chanina said, you know what? If he was quiet, but his intention was not to confirm it, not just to wait the day, just to cause her trouble, just to make her suffer, make it. He wants to fight with her. He wants to provoke her. Then he says that Rav Chanina said, he could make, even later on, even in March or April, he could also break it, because that's what he said. The limit of one day is only if if he didn't say anything, didn't think about it one way or another, or he confirmed it that day, or he said to himself, I'm confirming that day. But if he says he just wants to start up with her, then he has time. And we're going to disprove Rav Chanina today. But first, the idea that Hafer Belibo, that if he breaks it in his heart, that's not, he has to say Mufer Lechi or Bato Lechi. He has to actually say it. But he Mekayim in his own heart. It says the Ran in the 3rd line on the left side from the top of the page in Ayin Testament. How do we know that he can break it in his heart, that he doesn't have to say anything, he just break it to himself from the day? How do we know that? Because we learn in the pasuk that if he doesn't do anything for that day, it's the time am I. What's the reason? Since the day that he heard about it has passed, below Hafer, and he didn't break it that day. Gali Daite, he revealed, she wrote to Bekiyumo. If he doesn't do anything for the whole day, he knows he's got a day. If he doesn't say anything that day, effectively, he was Mekayim. Alma Kosha Belibo Lekaimo, if he was Mekayim Saki, that's good enough. Ella Diov LeRachmana, but Hashem gave him, Kali gave him the whole day. In other words, if he wants to be Mekayim in his heart right away, then it's Mekayim, that's it. He can't. We learned that he can be shoel on it, but once he confirms it, if he wasn't shoel on it, didn't go to Darim on the kiyum, you can't break it anymore. Either he confirmed it, or he confirmed it in his heart, or he waited the day. But if he waited the day and he didn't say anything, he's revealed that he wants to be Mekayim it. That if he didn't say anything, he's not sure. Give you a day if you want to break it. Until it gets till sundown. It's not clear what he wants to do. In other words, if he didn't say I'm Mekayim it, and he didn't Mekayim it in his heart, just gives him a day. Let me think about it. So if the day passes, then it showed that he wanted to confirm it, and the whole day he could have confirmed or canceled it. The Dilma Basar Achimefula, keeping the Basar Daite Belachudas Linam Umina. And from here you see the Kosh Kaim Belibo, Kaim Lauter. The whole reason is why, if you wait a day, is it Mukuyam? Because by waiting the day, Torah said get a day. You could have the whole day, cancel or confirm. You waited the whole day. Okay, the time has passed. Now you've effectively shown that you want to be mekayim. So just by doing nothing, he didn't say anything. The day passed. He didn't say anything. So that shows that if he wants to be mekayim himself, if he says I'm mekayim, in other words, there's no difference. But when the Torah says if you wait a day out, you didn't do anything, you have shown that you want to be mekayim. Okay, all you have to do is show it. Show it to yourself. Show it you didn't say anything. So, but if you want to be mekayim to yourself, that's also good. I mean, no, the kol shekayim belivo kaim la'alta dav like ki'ilu over yom. In other words, if I'm mekayim to myself, it's if I say, you know what, you've given me a whole day. I don't want the day. It's enough of me. I'm a vater on the day. I don't need the whole day. Time to myself. If you broke it, Ryan goes on to say, since we had this the other day, this is we said if you break in your heart, it's not broken. If it's not canceled, that's only if you didn't say anything. And if a we had before that let's say she said I'm not going to eat herring, I'm not going to have any shal shudas, and he says no, you can eat it now because I'm breaking effectively, even though he didn't say I'm broken the netter, but if he said eat it, it's effectively saying something. So by afar you have to say something. By hakama, by confirming it, you don't have to say anything. You could confirm it. You could confirm it to yourself, or you could just wait the day out. Now, Rav Chanina's halacha said something else, and we said that we'll get to the Gemara soon. There's another case where you actually have more than that day. She made the neder on January 1st. On February 1st, he heard about it. So he said, if by the time February 2nd showed up, right, or that night at sundown, that's it. If he didn't break it, it's confirmed automatically, right? And there's no excuses. Rav Chanina said, we'll talk about a case that everybody agrees that there is an extension. Rav Chanina said there's no extension. If he didn't confirm it, he wasn't quiet to wait the day out or to confirm it in his mind. He waited the day out. He was quiet in order to make her suffer, live through it. Okay, you wanted to, let's see how long you can last. He was trying to start up with her. And he says, then you also have time. You could break it even in March. Masar Rav Kana, we're at the 9th line now on Ayin Testament Alpha in the Gemara. Masar Rav Kana, the whole parsha talks first about a daughter and then talks about a wife. And it says, if her husband was quiet that day, right? So what's that case talking about? It says you have to break it, and he says you have that day, it says if she was quiet the whole day, quiet from day to day, that we said till the end day, then it's automatically confirmed. That's what the pasuk says. He was quiet. Now what's that case talking about? Make it a custom medaber. Says the kasha. We're asking a kasha of Chanina. That's the Rav Chanina's case, where you were quiet just to start up with her. Make it. Is it really that case? Maybe it's just a regular shosek. What do we say is the way you can be mekayim? Either say I confirm, or confirm it in your heart. That's good enough. Or even more, or confirm, or you were quiet because you said, I'll wait the day out, right? I'll wait the day out. I'll see what happens at the end of the day. That's called Shamsa Masakayim. In other words, let me think about it. Right now, I'm thinking about confirming it. Let me see how the day goes. If I'm quiet at the end of the day, that meant I meant to confirm it. So maybe that's what the case is speaking about. We're not talking about Rav Chanina's case. No. Kshu and the pasuk goes on to say, the same pasuk says, a third time, it says again, that's speaking about a case of shosek, a regular case of shosek hamasakayim. And this shosek hamasakayim is not the kayim that we talked about before, that he's makayim in his heart. On January 1st in the morning, she made a netter. He heard about it February 1st. As soon as he heard it, says yes in himself. He said, I'm confirming that. No. Shosek almanas timukayim at the end of the day. If he doesn't say anything, okay, let me think about it today. If I don't say anything at the end of the day, it's mekuyim. So that's this case. That's the Ron case. That's the difference between there's confirming by word, there's confirming in your heart, meaning it takes effect right away, and there's confirming by not saying anything by the end of the day. So maybe this is a thing. Maybe he says, maybe that's what we're talking about here. How do you know it's Rav Chanina's case where he's quiet to make her suffer, to start up with her? Maybe it's talking about a case where he's quiet. I'm going to ask Mekayim at the end of the day. It says, when you have that pasuk at the end. So you already have a shosik amanas Mekayim at the end of the day. So what does it mean when it says him? The first part of the pasuk. We're talking about where he was quiet just to start up with her. and tiyufta, so that's a kasha on Rav Chanina, because it's still the only pasuk is only of that day. Rav Chanina said if he was quiet to make her suffer, in other words, he was gonna just start up with her and make her suffer through her neder, then you have extended period. You don't have to break it February 1st, you can wait till March, you can wait till April. And that's what Rav Chanina said. But here it's mashma, the pasuk is speaking about that case. It says, wait a minute, wait a minute, you got two words, you got im hacharish yacharish, and then you have kiacharish lavia. One is speaking about the normal shosek amnas l'kayim, that I'll quiet, and if I don't do anything by the end of the day, what am I? One is the case where he's making her suffer. In both cases, you only have one day. So wait a minute, no. Say maybe that pasuk could talk about only one day is not talking about shosek amnas l'making at all. It's not talking about a case where he's making her suffer. Ella shosek amnas l'kayim. One is when he's trying to kayim at the end of the day. Shosek stam. He wasn't thinking about anything. In other words, there's another case. There's a case. Breaking it, you got to break it. You got to say, I'm breaking it, or eat the herring, or something like it. You got to say something. Makayim is either I confirm it by words, or I confirm it in my mind, or I confirm it by saying, I'm not going to say anything until, let me see by the end of the day what I feel like, or shosek stam. I'm not saying anything. I don't know. I'm taking it under advisement. I'm not committing to anything. Maybe it means that. The answer is, right? Shosek stam. The answer is Kroy Yisei Riksiva. There's an extra pasuk there. What do you mean the extra pasuk? The Ran, right before the lines get wide, say we're not talking about the other psukim of where he talks about the daughter at the beginning of the parsha, or even basically Shabbat. And then it says V'sham Isha v'hechrish la v'yom v'hechrish la loheini osa. No, we're talking about that same pasuk of pasuk Tesvav and Perik Lamed in Bamidbar. Im hachresh yachrish. That's two yachrishes. There's a third hechrish there. That's what the Ran says. In that same pasuk, it says hachrish many times in the parsha, but in the same pasuk, hachrish yachrish trei ki hechrish lo hatlasa. It says 3 times there. So even if you say that one hechrish is for he was quiet, thinking about I'll be mekayim at the end of the day. Let me give it a day. Let me give it at the end of the day. I'll be mekayim by being quiet. And another hechrish is, no, I'm just taking it under advisement. Stam, I'm not having a kavanah one way or another. You still have a third word telling me, hechrish la, I'm an as to make it and nas to fight. And still you only have one day. That's a kasha tiyufta on Rav Chanina. Now, this you might say is not such a strong kasha, or as the Ran says in the first of the wide lines in the Gemara, even though we just had a tiyufta, Afagav the Tosaf Chadzim, the first of the wide lines of the Ran, Mosfina Lasso, we still ask other kashas. Many times when you say tiyufta, it's like a strong kasha, and that's the end of the Gemara. Here, even though it says tiyufta, we still ask 2 more kashas, because he might say, listen, I want to really take care of Rav Chanina over here. He says something which nobody else agrees with, that if you were quiet just to start up with her, then you have unlimited time to break it. You don't just have that day. You could do it in a month or 2 months or 3 months. You could do whatever you want. We're going to really slug him up. And if you don't like the first answer, the slug up, I'll ask you another one. Another kasha, Masav Rabba. Nodrim Chashech, Misha said before, if she made a neder as it was getting dark, let's say even on Friday night, on Matzah Shabbos, he has to break it until it gets dark. Because if he didn't break it for Chashri and it got dark, in other words, Matzah Shabbos happened, then he can't break it anymore. And we said, what's that speak about? Even on Shabbos. Why? Because on Shabbos, he can even break Nadarim that are not L'tzorach Shabbos. He doesn't have to, it's not for Shalshus. He's talking about, I'm not going to, I make a net of the washing machine, I don't get any enough from the washing machine. It's also to me that I'm going to wash on Wednesday. So if she makes a neder on Shabbos, it doesn't affect Shabbos at all. How can he break it? The answer is because if he doesn't break it now, he won't be able to break it again. That's what we learned. Why do you have to say that? If there's a way that you can extend the period of breaking and confirming, how? Like Rav Chanina, he's starting up with her. Why do you say that she doesn't have any time? The whole reason we say, remember, the one who holds that you have 24 hours, not just that day holds, you can't break that neder on Shabbos, right? Break it the next day. If it's affecting only Wednesday, don't break it on Shabbos, break it the next day. But the one who holds it, you can only break it that day. You have to break it even if it's not something that's related to Shabbos on Sof Shabbos. Why? Why isn't it no worse that if Shosek al Manas make it, if being quiet has to fight with her, you have extended time. So make this also extended time. See if another kasha. Masar Vashi, the final kasha. Here's an example where we do hold that she made the neder on January 1st and he heard about it on February 1st, he still has an extended period of time. He only doesn't have just a 1 day. Why? Let's say a man says, I know you can make an neder. Do you think the average Jew in the street knows that a husband can break his wife's neder automatically? Not everybody knows halacha. They don't all come to the Shiur. They don't understand what the parsha is talking about anyway, and they weren't listening in shul anyway when we read Matos. It's a double parsha. Nobody wants to listen, right? I knew you can make it. I didn't know I could break it. I just found out now. I found out in March that you could break the neder. That's considered the day that he heard about it. In other words, he's given 1 day, the day that he heard about it, to either break it or confirm it. But if he didn't know that he could break it, then that day doesn't count. So it only counts when he heard about it. So your day initiation dharma, Yefer, he could break it. He could break it that day because that's the day that he heard about it effectively. The day, not the day that he heard the neder, the day that he heard the day that he heard both that there is a neder and that he has the ability to break it. He could break it that day. Let's say he says, I know you could break a neder. She said neder. I didn't know this is a neder. I didn't know the rules of Nadarim. Rav Meir says, no, you can't break it. You could break it because, again, until he knows that this is a neder and that he could break it, that the day doesn't count. That's not the day. In other words, what's the day that he heard about it? The day he heard about it, he only has 1 day, right? But it's not the day that he literally heard about the neder. It's the day that he heard that this is a neder and that he could break it if he didn't know the halacha till then. So Chacham say he could break it that day. But according to Rav Meir says if he knew that you could break, but he didn't know this is a neder, he can't break it anymore. Why? Why is it any worse than shosek? Make it again. If being quiet on the condition that you're trying to make her suffer gives you an extended period of time, so make this extended period of time too. Why should this be any worse? This is also kasha on Rav Chanina, and therefore the Ran, but right at the end of the parak, you see the Ran, not at the bottom of the page, before the end of the parak, there, before the Hadran, 2 lines there above, Hilkach Naktinan. The shosek make it kistam. We don't hold like Rav Chanina. We hold that if a person is quiet on the condition he's trying to make her suffer, you don't have an extended period of time. You don't have any more time. It's like stam. It's like, you didn't say anything one way. You didn't confirm, or we say you didn't confirm or deny. He didn't confirm or cancel. He confirmed it. You can confirm it either by saying I confirm it, by confirming it, or by confirming from your heart, or by doing nothing and saying, okay, I'll wait till the end of the day, or stam. It's sort of like stam, but it's not exactly like stam. In the third case that I said is I'll be mekayim at the end of the day. Right? Let me give it a day, and if I don't do anything then, or it could be stam, I didn't do anything. So for shosek must make it is like stam. If lo must make for eliyam, she can only break it that day. They heard of belvad. The shosek must lekayim la'alter. If he's quiet because he wants to mekayim right now, shuben yachalef afilu b'yom. In other words, there's different kinds of kiyum. Again, by saying it, by thinking it, by waiting by saying I'm going to be quiet and nothing happens by the end of the day, mekayim it, or by doing nothing. Period. Now, the Ran had said that this is similar. That's how you know that that breaking in your heart is good because, confirming it in your heart is good because it's like waiting till the end of the day. The Mefarshim ask over here, we have a cloud, Dvarim Shebalev and Dvarim. If you didn't say anything, right? But Dvarim Shebalev and Dvarim, what do you mean? You were crying in your heart. So that's a kasha that the Kiva Eger asks on the Ran's shot over here, that being mekayim in your heart is no worse than waiting till the end of the day. Yeah, but that this is Dvarim Shalem. And we said before, Dvarim Shalem, unless it's something that everybody understands, even though you didn't say it. We had that before, that if it's something that everybody knows, fine, but this is not that. So different answers are given, but one answer is Einom Dvarim Shalem and Dvarim, if you're coming to be mevatel something, I didn't want it to happen, and here you're being mekayim it. But a nice answer that I like is Hezmanosav, that Dvarim Shebalev Lo Shech over here by a comma she'einena inyan shebeinu ben chavero. Dvarim Shebalev and Dvarim is like we have a deal, we have an agreement or a fight or something where there's something between me and you, and I meant this and you meant that, but I didn't say it. Dvarim Shebalev and Dvarim. Here it's not something between me and something else. Here it's just himself. Is he mekayim the neder or not? That doesn't apply. It's not like a deal between two different people, and therefore shafilu mekayim bein atzmo. But over here, it's not like that. Lo shayach dvarim shebalev she'einena dvarim shebeino lebein chavero shafilu mekayim beino lebein atzmo. It's mekayim. In other words, even if it's mekayim to himself, it's mekayim. He doesn't have to hear her say it. She doesn't have to hear him say it. It is mekayim. It is mekayim. The neder is in his authority now to break it or or confirm it. It's not like a deal with somebody else. Is we had some deal. There was something going on over here. I understood it one way. You understood it another way. Well, if you didn't say it, you didn't get it. It's like if you don't have a receipt, if you didn't get it in writing, you didn't get it. If you didn't say it out loud, you didn't say anything. But that's between two different people. But over here, the kiyum is for himself. Obviously, it's for his wife, Ishtakagufo, but it's really for himself, and therefore we don't say Dvarim Shebelevi and Dvarim in this case. Hanulach Nar Marasa. Now we begin the final parak in the Masechta. Elu Dvarim Shemefer. What kind of Nadarim can the husband break? We're going to talk about the husband. The truth is that for most Rishonim, it's the same for a daughter also. That the issues that he can break. Only thing, but the Rambam learns a little bit differently. But most Rishonim learn that what a husband can break for his wife are two categories of Nadarim we're going to discuss, and the same thing for a father and a daughter. So we'll talk about it in the sense of the husband and the wife. Elam Shir, what kind of Dvarim can he break? Dvarim Sheish B'Min Nefesh, only things that are self-affliction. In other words, that she's making herself suffer. Like for a person who says that today, I guess suffering would be coffee is forbidden. All coffee is forbidden to me. Oranges are forbidden to me. Or I'm not going to eat any meat. Something of that sort. Something that most people would consider affliction. For example, in Erchetz and Lochetz, let's say she says, and the Nadarim here means Shavuos too. I'm not going to wash. Or if I wash today, I'm never going to wash again. We'll talk about the more. We'll expand on this. But it could be a shvua, I'm not going to wash. Or in Miskashin, I'm going to adorn myself, or I'm not going to adorn myself. If I adorn myself today, I won't ever do it again. So again, we'll see the lashon is imerchetz, that lashon of imerchetz. If I wash today, I'm never going to wash again. Then all washing is forbidden. The pleasure, again, by a neder, you have to answer an item. So the pleasure of washing will be forbidden to me. Or a shvua, I'm not going to wash. So if she says something, or if I'm not going to adorn myself, those, according to the Tanakh, those are things that are self-affliction. For most people, you can't wash today. We would say if she's never going to wash again, that's pretty self-affliction, right? Pretty much self-affliction. Or she's never going to dress up or adorn herself, put perfume on, etc. Pardon? Right. So self-affliction on affliction on everybody, right? So those are things that he can break. That's what a husband can break, says the Tanakh. Amar Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi says, no, ain't nefesh. That's not eating nefesh. A person can go on without washing for a long time. The Ran points out of here right away. But is something that is something between them. What do we mean by that? The Gemara is going to say, we're based on the pasuk. The pasuk says that regarding the Dorim, it says kol neder v'chol shvuos yisar la'anos nafesh, that afflict the soul. The husband can break it. The husband can confirm or break it. That's right. Lanos nefesh. Later on at the pasuk, right before Shani, what does it say, Michael? Those are the two kinds of nadarim you could break. Either afflicts her, if something that's a self-affliction, or it's something that affects their marriage, something that comes between them. If it's a husband and wife, it could be sexual matters, as we'll discuss. If it's a father and a daughter, maybe it's things she's supposed to do for him, but it affects their relationship. Those are the two kinds. So Rabbi says, though the things you just mentioned about washing and adorning, those aren't in nefesh. They are varm shebein lebeina, because if she stinks, that affects their relationship, right? So Rabbi Yossi ain't in nefesh. So what are in nefesh according to Rabbi Yossi? Ve'elo in nefesh. Amra konim peiros olam alai. She says, I'm never going to eat fruits. Well, in those days, you didn't eat fruits, and you didn't have vitamins. You get scurvy, or you get some other, affliction, disease. So Amra konim peiros olam alai. That he could break, because that's self-affliction. Peiros medina zu. Let's say she says, I don't want fruits from Cyprus. So then he can't break that, because you have to bring her from some other place. Again, around talk about where the place she's talking about is not the place that they live. The place that they live, it's easy to get peiros here. I forbid all fruits from Israel. No, that's a problem. If you say I don't want fruits from Russia, fine. So don't bring from Russia. Bring from somebody else. He can't break the netter. But if you said peiros from the country in which they're living, that's a problem that he could break. Peiros from Bunny is lie. Let's just I don't want peiros from this store. And you can't break that. Go to another store. Let's say this store is the only store that gives him credit, and he can't buy any place. He has no money. That would affect that affects her. Then he could break her. This is what Rabbi Yossi says. Now the top of the page, the Gemara the Mishnah said, Amar Rav Yossi, right? The first words on this page are Rav Yossi. Why does that Dibra Rav Yossi again at the end? To show us, we'll see the Gemara will talk about that the rest of the Mishnayos in the parak are also the words of Rav Yossi. So we have machlokas here between the Tanakam and Rav Yossi, whether if I'm not going to wash or I'm not going to adorn myself, according to the Tanakama, that's inu nefesh. According to Rav Yossi, that's not inu nefesh, but it's beina lebeina. So before we get into Rav Yossi, the machlokas, the far as Gemara is going to first deal with inu nefesh. The Mishnah said, the beginning of the Mishnah said, what nedarim can you break? Inu nefesh. Doesn't say anything about beina lebeina, right? So the Gemara says now right away, nidra inu nefesh. Who the for? He can only break nedarim of his wife. Again, daughter also, but we're looking at the husband and wife. Only nedarim that he can break things that afflict her, things that causes her to suffer. But if it doesn't involve affliction, he can't break. Vatanya, we learn bein ish leishto, the pasuk I just quoted in Perak Lamed. It's pasuk Yud Daled. No, it's pasuk Yud Zayin. It's bein ish leishto. Pasuk Yud Zayin. Bein ish leishto, bein av lebito, malamet shabal meifar nedam shabein albein are things that affect their relationship. So what do you mean you can only break nedarim? The Mishnah says, what nedarim can you break? Things that afflict her, not things that affect their relationship. Amrit says no. Halain v'alain meifar. You can break both kinds. The husband can break either nedarim that afflict her or things that affect the relationship. Miu inui nefesh. This is the first opinion. Inui nefesh meifar la'olam. Inui nefesh, if he breaks it, it's broken forever. He breaks it. In other words, the lashon of elu dam shumefer means break it forever. It's broken forever. So again, that's what he means. That's why he singles out in nefesh, because that's broken forever. But meifar la'olam, if it doesn't afflict her, it's not a self-affliction, it's something. Then when she is under him, meaning she's married to him, haviyafara. But once he divorces her, it's chayal to her. What, right? It's chal. In other words, it's effective. We're saying is if it's something that's beina lebeina, he can only break it. His canceling it is only effective as long as they're married. But as soon as, let's say, he divorces her, it doesn't. The netter takes effect. She made some netter, let's say according to Rav Yossi, that it's washing. So he can according to Rav Yossi, that's a beina lebeina. So the netter that she makes is broken as long as they're married. But as soon as he divorces her, it's no longer broken and it's valid. The Dorim Chayla, Nadr B'Dvarim Shebeina Lebeina, She'ein Bein Ni Nefesh. If it doesn't affect the Nefesh, but it's Bein Lebeina, so then it's Chal. Aval Yesh Bein Ni Nefesh, but if it's in Nefesh, Lo Chayla Nidra, it's not Chal even after their divorce. Says the Gemara, is that really the case? Dvarim She'ein Bein Ni Nefesh. If it doesn't, if it's something that afflicts her and he breaks it, it's forever. But if it's something only Bein Lebeina, it's only his breaking, his canceling is only effective as long as they're married. But as soon as they're not married, the netter's chal. When he divorces her, chal, it is chal. The netter's not chal. We learned the Mishnah is going to say later on in 5 in Pei Hey, it's going to say like this. Let's say she makes a netter that I'm not going to do any work for her husband. Any work that she does for her husband is forbidden. She's not going to do any work for her husband. Now, if she says she's not going to do work for her brother-in-law or father-in-law or father, she can make such an error. That's not enough. But if it says something between that she's supposed to do for her husband, she's supposed to knit for him or sew for him or prepare food for him, she's not allowed to make an error like that. So the Tanakama says, you know what? He doesn't even have to break that netter because she's already like mushba b'omed. She's responsible to do those things. She can't get rid of, abandon her responsibility to do those things. You don't even have to break the netter. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, he should break the netter. Why? Listen carefully. Rabbi Yochanan says he could break the netter too, even though she says she's forbidding work that she's going to do for her husband. Shemi Gershenikis, maybe he'll divorce her. Listen to this. Maybe he'll divorce her. And if he divorces her, the netter will be chal, right? The netter is going to be there, and he won't be able to take her back, and she'll be forbidden to take him back because she can't give him any pleasure. So she won't be able to marry her again. We're talking about if he divorces her and he's a Yisrael or a Levi, he can marry her again. So Rabbi Yochanan says better that he should break it now. In other words, the Tanakhama says you don't even have to break it because she's responsible to give those things to us now. So Rabbi Yochanan says no, break it because maybe he'll divorce her. And then she won't be able to take her back because she'll be forbidden to give him any pleasure. She won't be able to marry her. can't be married if she has a neder. He can't break a neder that's chal before they got married. This would be before the second time. So he should break it now. Alma though, if he divorced her, if he broke the neder before he divorced her, you just said that, the difference is that if it's Rabbeinu Lebeina, it's only effective as long as they're married. But once he divorces her, the neder comes into effect. The cancellation is canceled, so to speak. His breaking neder is canceled. But Rabbi Yochanan says you should break a neder like that, even though it is not effective now because she's responsible to do the work for him, to give him pleasure. But you should break it because maybe you'll divorce her, and then he'd be forbidden to take her back. So break it. And that means that when you break it now, it is effective even after the divorce. So how could you say that Inu Nefesh is chal forever? But if it's beina lebeina, it's only effective as long as they're married, not when they're divorced. Here you see that he can break it now, and it's effective even after divorce. That's why you break it. It's not effective while they're married because she's responsible to give those things to him. It's only effective after they're divorced, right? So Rabbi Yochanan says, break it now so that he'll be able to take her back, so it'll be effective even after the divorce. You're right. Halain v'alain and afara. They're both afara. They're both afara, both Inu Nefesh and beina lebeina. Elo nidrin and nefesh mefer bein latzvei lachem. Inu Nefesh you can break not only for all time, but whether it affects him or break other people. Ein bein nefesh if it doesn't affect, if it's not Inu Nefesh, if it's only beina lebeina, la'atzma he can break it for himself. Lachem and mefer. In other words, it's not that it's chal after their divorce. He's breaking it as far as he's concerned. As far as he's concerned, it's broken. For other people, it's not broken. So if she makes some sort of a neder, let's say she's not going to wash. If you could say wash or some other thing, it's beina lebeina, but it's not effective for other people because that's not beina lebeina. The neder that she makes, that's going to, she's not going to do a certain thing that affects their relationship, but it doesn't affect her relationship with other people. He can only break things that affect his relationship with his wife, and not things that affects that she's making that's going to affect her relationship with other people. So ein bein nefesh la'atzmi can break for himself. Lachem ein mefer. And therefore, what do we mean? Therefore, Rabbi Yochanan says over there, he should break that neder when she forbids herself from doing anything for him. Why? And he could break that neder, even it's effective even after the divorce, as long as she can take him back, as long as he can take her back. It's effective for him too, because it's effective. And again, ein bein nefesh, he can break it for himself for all time, as long as it affects as long as it's for himself. The Ran points out, let's say, and the Gemara will say later on, let's say she marries somebody else. That means he can never take her back. He can never, once he divorces a wife and she marries somebody else, you're not allowed to take her back. Once you can't take her back, then the neder is effective, period, because there's no relationship. It doesn't affect their relationship. He can't take her back anyway. Then the neder would be effective even as far as he's concerned. That's the point. That again, neither in nefesh mefer bein latzma lachem, ein bein nefesh la'atzma mefer lachem mefer. He can only break it as far as he's concerned. But as far as he's concerned, if she didn't remarry somebody else, then he could take her back. So it's still broken. The neder could still be effective. That's why he has to break it now, but while they're still married. That's what Rabbi Yochanan says. Break the neder now, so that it will be broken even after he divorces her, as long as he could still take her back, as long as they could still have a relationship. So he can break it for that, but he can't break it as far as her relationship. She forbids something on herself that like let's say washing is beina lebeina. As far as it affects them, fine. But let's say as far as it affects other people, let's say she's not going to wash and she's going to go to work and smell up the office or something like that. The neder would be chal for that, because he can only break nadarim. That's between her. She can make a tarsum. She can go to the rabbi. But as far as the husband breaking it, he can't break it. He can only break if there's no affliction involved. He can only break it as far as it's good, as far as it affects his relationship with her. And his relationship with her could even be after he's divorced, as long as she didn't marry somebody else. This is shot in the Mishnah. When the Mishnah says this answers the first question, we said the Mishnah says for these ones you can break. What about beina lebeina? No, this is what the Mishnah say. These are the darm they can break, whether it affects him or affects somebody else. If it's nidre of affliction, the darm sheish nefesh. If it's something that's self-affliction, he could break it whether it's for himself or whether it affects other people. It doesn't make any difference. If it's self-affliction, he could break it, period. However, if it's not self-affliction, then he can only break it as long as it affects him, not if, as far as it affects somebody else. All right, we'll pick up here tomorrow from the words imerchatz, and then we're going to deal with the lashon itself, the nadarim. What is the actual neder that she made? Again, according to the Tanna Kama, that's any nefesh. According to Yossi, that's not any nefesh. That's beina lebeina, and we'll see that in tomorrow.